Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at the concept of limiting reactant. And the limiting reactant is what defines or determines how much product will be produced. And the limiting reactant will be completely consumed. Now, we can look at this with respect to, say, recipes or cooking, because those are common times that we see limiting reactant in practice in our everyday lives. So let's look at the preparation of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Let's say we have 6 slices of bread, a whole jar of jelly, and a whole jar of peanut butter. Okay, so if we're going to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with these materials, what's the number of sandwiches that I can make? Well, you can make 3 sandwiches, and we know we can make 3 sandwiches because if we're thinking about a typical sandwich, we take 2 pieces of bread, so I can take 2 pieces of bread to make 1 sandwich, and I have a whole jar of jelly and a whole jar of peanut butter, so that's plenty to make 3 sandwiches, and the limiting reactant is the bread. I use up all the bread, and the bread determines how much product I can make. I can only make 3 sandwiches with 6 slices of bread. Okay? So those are your definitions. Now let's look at a different example, still with cooking, so I hope I'm not making you too hungry. But there's 2 different ways to determine the limiting reactant. My preference is by method A here, calculating the quantity of a product produced. So we would use the stoichiometry of the balanced chemical equation to do so. And let's say we have, let's skip ahead here. Let's see how many pizzas can be produced with the ingredients I have here. Okay, so I have my balanced chemical equation. 1 crust plus 5 ounces of tomato sauce plus 2 cups of cheese makes 1 pizza. But how many pizzas can I make with 4 crusts and 15 ounces of tomato sauce? I would need to calculate here how much product I can produce. So by method A, let's start there first. I'm going to say, well, I have 4 crusts, and I need 1 crust, playing with my units here, to make 1 pizza, right? That's the stoichiometry in the balanced chemical equation. So from this, I can make 4 pizzas. If I have 15 ounces of sauce, I would have to do this protocol for each reactant. I need 5 ounces of sauce, right? Setting this up so they cancel to make 1 pizza. Now my units will be in pizza, so I can make 3 pizzas with this amount of sauce. And then I have 10 cups of cheese. So for every 2 cups of cheese, I can make 1 pizza. So cheese cancels, I'm left with 5 pizzas. Okay, so the limiting reactant will determine the amount of product that I can produce, and it will be the least amount of product, right? So the fact that I can only produce 3 pizzas with 15 ounces of sauce means that that is my limiting reactant. I will use up all of the sauce, I will have excess crust and excess cheese. So this is my limiting reactant. And from that, we have calculated what we call the theoretical yield. If everything goes as planned, I will end up with 3 pizzas. Okay. Now, the other way of calculating the limiting reactant would be to use the mole ratios of reactants and compare the reactants. So for every 4 crusts, or I have 4 crusts, in order to make a pizza here, for every 1 crust, I need 5 ounces of tomato sauce. So I would need 20 ounces of sauce. Do I have 20 ounces of sauce? No. So I know I have more crusts than I need at least. So then I need to do the same thing with the cheese, 4 crusts, 1 crust to 2 cups of cheese. This gives me 8 cups of cheese. Do I have 8 cups of cheese? Yes. So that's enough as well. So I've identified my limiting reactant by this method. Okay. Again, I prefer to use the first method I showed you up here, but B is perfectly fine, and we will need to use B when we're determining like how much leftover reactant there is. So we know that I'm only going to need to use 6 cups of cheese, right? Because I'm only going to be able to use 15 ounces of sauce. So I take that limiting reactant and I say, well, I need 2 cups of cheese. Sorry, this is 5 ounces of sauce. And I need, sorry, this is 15 ounces of sauce, and it's 5 ounces of sauce per 2 cups of cheese. So here I've got 15 divided by 5, which is 3 times 2 is 6 cups of cheese. And I'm starting with 10 minus 6 would equal 4 cups of cheese left over. All right, so we'll be looking at reactant left over potentially in this type of problem as well.